Hello, friends. Today is Tuesday in what we Christians think of as Holy Week. It is the week that leads up to Easter. Now, as part of our practice this week, we are inviting you, if you so desire, to be a part of just these very short noontime, reflections and opportunities for you to do some pondering, thinking, and listening to the scripture texts that speak to us about aspects of what happened this week leading up to the crucifixion and resurrection. Now, of course, for those who were around in that very first week, in that last week of Jesus' life, for them, there was no sense that this was anything other than the week leading up to Passover, perhaps. That's probably all they knew. So, and of course, the Gospels are written after Jesus' death and resurrection, and the experience of listening to them is partially for us put through that image of all the things we've come to know or learn or think over the last 20 plus centuries. And so I want to invite you today to listen to the text, listen for a word, for an image, for a phrase that may be what Spirit is speaking to you today, because Lectio Divina is about believing the text beyond all the scholarly and everything else that goes into interpreting text sometimes. Beyond that, there are words that if you listen with the ears of your heart, will speak to you about what God might need you to hear today. And at the end of listening, you may pause this video if you want to, so that you can reflect on your own. I'm going to offer some reflections, what I hear in the passage. So we'll listen together. Today, Emily is reading it to us. We'll listen together, and then at the end of our listening, after a moment of pause, I might speak into it something that stood out or an image that spoke to me. And perhaps you'll find one too. So today we're hearing from John chapter 12, a portion of that, verses 20 through 36.
Some Greeks were among those who had come up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and made a request. "Sir, we want to see Jesus." Philip told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip told Jesus. Jesus replied, "The time has come for the human one to be glorified. I assure you that unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it can only be a single seed. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their lives will lose them, and those who hate their lives in this world will keep them forever. Whoever serves me must follow me. Wherever I am, there my servant will also be. My Father will honor whoever serves me. Now I am deeply troubled. What should I say of Father? Save me from this time? No, for this is the reason I have come to this time. Father, glorify your name." Then a voice came from heaven. "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." The crowd standing there heard and said, "It's thunder." Others said, "An angel spoke to him." Jesus replied, "This voice wasn't for my benefit, but for yours. Now is the time for judgment of this world. Now this world's ruler will be thrown out. When I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everyone to me." He said this to show how he was going to die. The crowd responded, "We have heard from the law that the Christ remains forever. How can you say that the human one must be lifted up? Who is this human one?" Jesus replied, "The light is with you for only a little while. Walk while you have the light so that darkness doesn't overtake you. Those who walk in the darkness don't know where they are going. As long as you have the light, believe in the light, so that you might become people whose lives are determined by the light. After Jesus said these things, he went away and hid from them.
There were a lot of images in that text, weren't there? I don't know what might have spoken to you, but it was interesting to me. The thing that stood out to me as I listened to this text today was the fact that from the realm of heaven, Jesus heard from the Father, from God. And to some who were there, some who were listening, it sounded like thunder. And to others, it sounded like the voice of a messenger. Angel, messenger, essentially the same word. So it is that as we reflect together about that, for me, I do think that there are times when we're listening closely, when we're attentive, when we are open to Spirit speaking, that we feel like there is a moment of message that comes to us and that we hear it. And then there are also those moments when it just sounds like noise. It just sounds like noise to us. And I think part of that is where we are on our journey of faith, whether we're actually awake in this moment, alert, listening, prepared to hear. And for me, I felt it was a calling out to me that perhaps sometimes I mistake what God is trying to say to me for thunder, because in that moment, I'm not attentive. I'm not in that moment. I'm not present. So it was a reminder to keep awake and to listen for Spirit's voice in my life. I don't know what you found. Certainly invite you, if you want to, in the responses. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, you can certainly add a response. If you have some thoughts about it yourself, always invite those. Love to hear them. But otherwise, remember, in the midst of this week, which we call Holy Week, but you can feel it is like any other day, and make it as holy as you choose to. Just remember, in this week, as we lead our way up through this important part of the Christian year, that you are infinitely precious and unconditionally loved for the gift you already are, and that God does have a word for you. Sometimes might be confused with thunder, but other times it might feel very clear. So I wish for you the best. I'll be back to see you again tomorrow.